The Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire, invasion and cultural transformation. In 1519, a fleet of Spanish ships appeared off the coast of modern-day Mexico. Aboard were just over 500 soldiers, led by a man named Hernán Cortés. Their arrival would mark the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful civilizations in the Americas, the Aztec Empire. How did such a small force bring down an empire of millions? This is the incredible, complex, and often brutal story of the fall of the Aztecs. To understand this clash of worlds, we first need to meet the Aztecs, or as they called themselves, the Mexica. By the early 1500s, they had built a magnificent capital city, Tenochtitlan, on an island in the middle of a lake. Imagine a city of towering pyramids, bustling markets, and ingenious floating gardens, all connected by canals and causeways. It was a marvel of engineering and home to over 200,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time. The Aztec Empire wasn't a unified nation like Spain. It was a collection of city-states that paid tribute to the Mexica rulers in Tenochtitlan. This tribute could be anything from food and textiles to gold and, most ominously, people for human sacrifice. This practice, central to Aztec religion, created deep resentment among their subject peoples. The empire was powerful, but it was built on a foundation of fear and coercion, a vulnerability the Spanish would soon exploit. Now, let's turn to the Spanish. Hernán Cortés was a man driven by ambition, greed, and a fervent Catholic faith. He had come to the New World seeking fortune and glory. When he heard rumors of a wealthy empire in the interior, he assembled an expedition, defying the orders of the governor of Cuba to do so. His force was tiny compared to the Aztec armies, but he had secret weapons, steel swords, crossbows, cannons, and perhaps most importantly, horses and war dogs, creatures the native people had never seen before. Upon landing, Cortés made a bold move. He ordered his ships to be scuttled, sending a clear message to his men: there was no turning back. They would either conquer or die. His first encounters were with coastal tribes, like the Totonacs, who were tired of Aztec rule. Seeing a potential ally against their overlords, they quickly allied with the Spanish, providing them with supplies, warriors, and crucial intelligence. One of the most important figures in this story emerged from these early encounters, a native woman named Malintzin, later known as La Malinche or Dona Marina. She had been sold into slavery and could speak both Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs, and a Mayan dialect. A Spanish priest in Cortés' party could speak Mayan, creating a translation chain. Malintzin became Cortés' indispensable interpreter, advisor, and strategist. She understood the political landscape of Mesoamerica and helped him navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries. As Cortés marched inland, he faced the fierce resistance of the Tlaxcalans, a powerful independent state that had long resisted Aztec domination. After several bloody battles, the Tlaxcalans, realizing the Spanish were a formidable force, decided an alliance against their mutual enemy. The Aztecs was their best option. This was a turning point. With thousands of elite Tlaxcalan warriors at his side, Cortés' small band of conquistadors was now the head of a massive native army. Meanwhile, news of these strange, bearded invaders reached the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma II. Moctezuma was a powerful but deeply superstitious ruler. He was troubled by omens and prophecies foretelling the empire's downfall. One ancient legend spoke of the return of the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl, who was prophesied to be fair-skinned and bearded. Was Cortés this returning god? Moctezuma wasn't sure. His indecision would prove fatal. Instead of mounting a decisive attack, Moctezuma sent lavish gifts of gold and silver to the Spanish, hoping to appease them and persuade them to leave. But these gifts had the opposite effect. They confirmed the rumors of immense wealth and fueled the Spaniards' greed, making them more determined than ever to reach the capital, Tenochtitlan. In November 1519, Cortés and his army finally arrived at the great city. The Spanish were stunned by its beauty and scale. Moctezuma welcomed them into Tenochtitlan, perhaps hoping to better understand and control them from within. He housed them in one of his father's palaces. For a time, a tense peace held, but Cortés knew his position was precarious. In a daring move, he took Moctezuma hostage, making him a puppet ruler through whom he could command the empire. The situation exploded when Cortés had to leave the city to deal with a rival Spanish force sent to arrest him. In his absence, his second-in-command, Pedro de Alvarado, ordered a massacre of Aztec nobles during a religious festival. The city erupted in fury. When Cortés returned, he found Tenochtitlan in open revolt. The Spanish were trapped. In the ensuing chaos, Moctezuma was killed either by the Spanish or by his own people who saw him as a traitor. the Spanish decided their only option was to escape. On a rainy night known as La Noche Triste, or the Night of Sorrows, they tried to flee across one of the causeways. They were ambushed by Aztec warriors. Laden with gold, many Spanish soldiers drowned or were cut down. Cortés himself barely escaped, losing more than half his men and all his cannons. It was a devastating defeat, but Cortés was not a man to give up. He retreated to the safety of Tlaxcala, where his allies helped his army recover. And here another, more insidious weapon was at work: disease. A Spanish soldier had carried smallpox, a disease unknown in the Americas. With no natural immunity, the native population was decimated. The plague swept through Tenochtitlan, killing thousands, including the new emperor. It crippled the Aztecs' ability to fight, leaving the city weakened and demoralized. With fresh reinforcements from Cuba and his Tlaxcalan allies, Cortés returned to Tenochtitlan in 1521. This time, he laid siege to the city. He had small ships, called brigantines, built and armed with cannons, allowing him to control the lake and cut off the city's food and water supply. For 93 days, the Aztecs, now led by the heroic young Emperor Cuauhtémoc, fought with incredible bravery. They battled street by street, house by house, but starvation, disease, and the relentless Spanish Tlaxcalan assault were too much. On August 13, 1521, the city finally fell. The magnificent capital of the Aztec Empire was reduced to rubble. The conquest was complete, but the story doesn't end there. The fall of Tenochtitlan paved the way for the Spanish colonization of the Americas, creating a new society, modern-day Mexico, born from the violent fusion of two worlds. The Spanish conquest was a complex event driven by a mix of greed, religious zeal, political maneuvering, and incredible luck. It was made possible not just by Spanish steel and gunpowder, but by internal divisions within the Aztec Empire, the crucial aid of native allies like the Tlaxcalans, the brilliance of an interpreter like Malintzin, and the devastating impact of European diseases. It remains one of history's most dramatic and consequential turning points. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what historical event you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.